Dear friends, it's time to start. We're 11 minutes. We have it's 5 p.m. 11 minutes now. It's time to start. My name is Vasily Kuznetsov, and we're at our annual conference of Russian Arabists, not just Russians, but of the Institute of Oriental Studies. And today we invited our colleague from Qatar University, a well-known professor who is working as associate professor at Qatar University, Dr. Muntasir Al-Hamad. Muntasir, hello. Hi. Muntasir Al-Hamad is a specialist in Nabatean languages, in Semitic languages. He was director of Abrahamic religions at Manchester University. Now he is associate professor at Qatar University. He published a number of academic articles, of books, and he is member of many civil organizations in Arabic language, and he specializes in Arabic language for non-Arab speakers, and among other things, he is author of a very interesting and inspiring book, "Signs and Gestures: Non-Verbal Communication in the Qatari Culture." This year, when our attention is focused on Qatar because of the Mondiale, everybody is very interested in Qatar culture. Even after yesterday's match, we're waiting for Morocco-Croatia match. We're waiting for Arab victory. His book on Qatari non-verbal communication is translated into Russian, and I've seen the translation, and it has been done well, and it is very interesting, and I'm looking forward to see it published in Russia. I hope it will be in several weeks or months. We'll see it in libraries everywhere here. And so today it is it is a promotion of your book. It is a promotion of your book. Your lecture, Voice Arabic Out Without Words. For the reglement, you will speak about, I don't know how long you want, about 30-40 minutes, something like this. And then we'll have a Q&A session. Okay, I will facilitate it. And the lecture is recorded now, and we'll publish it in our YouTube channel, inshallah. And now I think I have told everything I wanted. Muntasir, the floor is yours.
Firstly, shukran jazilan. Many thanks for your invitation. Many thanks to my dear friend, Professor Vasily Kuznetsov. And I hope that I will take you in a journey that I have tried upon the request of Professor Vasily to make it as light as possible. So not to bombard it with theories, but to make it interactive as much as I can. Unfortunately, by the way, the Russian translation was not done by me. Lucky you, because my Russian is almost none. But I will do my best with my Russian, inshallah, in the future. Firstly, I'm deeply honored to be with you, and I hope that this opportunity would give us an insight on a topic that we all wish to see and hear more about. So it's Voice Arabic Out Without Words, Non-Verbal Communication in Arabic Cultures, as a case study, Qatar. So firstly, I would like to welcome you with open arms, like all others, all Arabs would do with open arms. Open arms means that I'm not hiding anything, not hiding any weapon, and you are very welcome to come closer to me. Now, as we say in Arabic, ادخل برجلك اليمين, enter with your right foot. That's part of the culture. Whoever is on the right has got the priority to enter. In 40 minutes, as I was instructed, I will try to touch on various issues as you can see them. I won't read them. And mainly they are all about what Professor Vasily has described. As he rightly said, we are in the fever of the World Cup. So, and I have selected few things that could come with what we're doing. Media, Arabic media, Qatari media was talking about this guy who selected a battula to wear, not knowing probably that the battula is for ladies, but he selected to put it on his face, and it was obviously funny for any Arabic speaker or any member of the Arabic culture. Yet it was not the only one. We've seen this guy putting on a jalabiya, but this jalabiya, although it looks nice and perfect, but this is for ladies as well. But he loved it because of the color, because of the embroidery, but it's for ladies. Yet we've seen some issues and conflict during the match between Switzerland and Serbia when the Albanian of origin player has made this sign of the eagle, and we've seen the scarves with the kufiya as well. So many claim that there were 33 teams, not 32 teams, with Palestine this is the Egyptian player. He's foremost in Egypt and the whole Arab world, Mohammed Abu Trika, with Mohammed Al-Kuwari, a very well-known presenter. So we've seen this sign that was talked all about, as well as this celebration of Messi in front of the manager of Netherlands. This was talked about as well in the Arab world, and the Arab gear, including the kufiya and iqal, including the armband. So it's all over us. So we want to avoid impression and stereotype when we analyze any of these pictures. When we see them, first thing would come to our mind some stereotypical images of what we have read, seen, or watched in movies, or read in stories, or heard from other people. Yet, we should be aware that, as Shakespeare said it in one of his plays, there is language in her eyes, in her cheek, her lip, nay, her foot speaks. So all of us would come to this sign language, and it would provide us with some curiosity. When some people would make stories out of Freemasonry's hand gestures and handshakes and grips and how they do it. We had a lot of people who claimed that the bushes have probably some relation to some satanic sects or whatever in some of their hand gestures. And we've seen that as well in some of the monks, silent monks who observe silence, yet they have their own language that goes through signs and sign language. Not only that, if you are a rider, bike rider, motorbike rider, you would have different signs with your arms and your foot to show things. And some interesting Mini Cooper, they have their own gestures as well to differentiate themselves and to give themselves an edge over other cars. So what's the missing link? When we look at any language, we think about the four skills, but in reality, we have semantics, context, and we have semiotics and pragmatics. So when we look at a language, language is not only the rules of phonology, morphology, syntax, semantics, and pragmatics. It's other things as well that we should look into. And all of that would lead us to look into the theories of otherness in language learning, because it's all about the other, how to contact and communicate, because language is mean of communication, and it depends on the cultural otherness and otherness of identity when we look into that. And that was apparent in many studies that you can see and watch later on, as I watch later on the channel, and you can pause it. We're talking about the grammatical competence when we talk about communicative competence, but we talk as well about social linguistic competence, discourse competence, and strategic competence. And all of these together would make communicative competence. Communicative competence is not only about learning a language and learning the rules of the language and learning the grammar. That would give us only an insight on how to build those layers and bricks of language. And as Tarazan, and it happened with most of us, at least those who were going to a date, they would think about many ways of expressing themselves and introducing themselves to the lady who they would see, like Tarazan here. And eloquently, he was thinking of different ways of introducing himself to Jane. And once he met her, and that's the competence. The competence goes into the head of Tarazan. Yet, when he wanted to utter it as a performance, he ended up saying, me, Tarazan, you, Jane. And so the performance is different from the competence. And once we can get the performance to the level of competence, that's one of the challenges any one of us can do. Sorry for not translating this. It's about the contact theory, and mainly human beings are about when they deal with each other, they go through either triple C, quadruple C, or even more C's, which are either they would compete, or they would conflict, or coexist. And the best thing amongst all, between all human beings, is to elaborate. So, I quoted Edward Said here, so I won't go into translating what I have quoted beyond words. So we must differentiate when we talk about nonverbal communication between nonverbal communication, the sign language, which goes for the deaf and hard hearing community, and the body language that is more or less interpreting. I know that many studies has gone through trying to give us more or less general idea about what it means, but we can deceive others by doing an action. As example, if I do this, somebody might say it's defensive, but I could just want to rest my arms. Or if I do this, they would say, oh, he's lying, or he's thinking about changing his mind. But What if I had scratch behind my ears? What if? So these are to be carefully looked at. And there is a former FBI agent who has published and a lot and give many nice, interesting lectures on YouTube, Joe Navarro. So he's a person to look at the work of, but that's interpreting more than a language. And the last thing is emotional expressions, which are emotional expressions by all humans, and they are more or less facial emotional expressions. So NVC, more or less, is a body language which sends message by gesture, touch, facial expression, gaze, posture, tone of voice, and social distance. So it's a message that I mean it, and I send that message, and the receiver knows the message and can decode the message. So when I encode the message, I tell you, as example, I do this to my colleagues, they would understand that I'm cheering them up and I'm giving them a thumb up, which has a meaning that they can translate and decode in a certain way which is almost 100% to the meaning that I have sent, which means a language. This is not a body language. So these are some of the NVC quotations that I quoted from the early Arabic. And as example, Al-Jahiz, who died 868 AD, he said the word, the sign, the computation, the script, and the situational context are the non-verbal meanings, expressions, are the items of verbal and non-verbal meanings. Expressions are 5, and he mentioned these. And we have another quotation from Fakhruddin al-Razi when he spoke about motion signs, writings, or words that someone utters to communicate. And when we come to the early linguists who talked about this, we can talk about Charles Darwin, who published the expression of emotions in man and animals, and he referred those emotions and expressions to some previous functions of communication that we have inherited somehow. So they were evolved and adapted. While we have this is who coined the term semiology when he talked about a system of signs that express ideas. When we talk about all of that, we should think about the face. And just to tell you a story coming out of all of that theoretical issue, once I was in a meeting, and I remember the guy who was in the meeting were with some Koreans who introduced a card to us, and part of the culture, the Korean, Japanese culture, there is a culture of presenting the card and receiving the card. So when we present the card with both of our hands, and the receiver would receive the card and start reading it for 10, 20 seconds, and with a nod of the head, and probably share some of the interest that he had about the person who presented the card. Our friend, the other side, one of our team was sitting, and he took the card with one hand and he put it on the chair arm. Later on, our friend, while talking, he was deeply involved in the discussion, and out of a sudden he picked the card and started to clean his teeth with the card. So the Koreans were really got nuts, and some of them wanted to leave the room. So we had to calm them down and explain that he didn't mean it, and so on. I was in another meeting, and this setting showing the sole of the feet and how it means to an Arab. I remember that member of our team were receiving a group, an American group, and one of the guys from the American group, he was sitting and showing the sole of the feet to us. For me, I wasn't offended simply because I lived in those cultures, and I know that he didn't mean it. So I just ignored it, while my friend couldn't, and he couldn't sit down. So I had to talk to the guest and ask him to lower his feet in order to continue the meeting, because my colleague couldn't take it in. So the face is important, and we say in Arabic, "Bayyad Allah wajhak," may God make your face white, i.e., give you honor. And the concept of face refers to the desire that all people have to maintain and define their own self-image. The face, it's there in the Arab culture, and it's there in Japanese culture as well, as you would see in Mintsu comments. However, what's politeness? This guy is about to drown, yet he unpolitely, according to the English culture, he said help, without saying please or excuse me, sir, I'm terribly sorry to bother you, but I wonder if you would mind helping me a moment, as long as it's not trouble, of course. So here, he didn't mind. So this is part of the politeness theory, and it's part of the discourse analysis that we can take. As Arabs say, "Ahlan wa sahlan, al-bayt baytak." But it depends on how to say "Ahlan wa sahlan." We can say "Ahlan wa sahlan." So or we can say "Ahlan wa sahlan." "Ahlan wa sahlan," i.e., get out. So a change in the language to make others feel comfortable, to avoid confrontation and discourse. And this is part of Lakoff's research. So we won't go through deeply into these theories, but pragmatics are not all about the words. Sometimes, as Arabs say, خَيْرُ الْكَلَامِ مَا قَلَّ وَدَلَّ, the best of speech which was little and significant, that would give the meaning in a significant manner and relevant. So that's what Grice talked about in his quadruple points: quantity, quality, relevance, and manner, which was later on developed in a certain way, according to what I think, in relevance theory by Spether and his student Wilson, when they developed these ideas, and they talked about the implications of verbal and nonverbal communication and so on. So, but what was for me a sound and interesting idea about nonverbal communication dimensions the work of the business trainer, if you wish, Edward T. Hall, who got into the cultural studies because of his work, and he talked about the context, space, and time as the communication, as the non-verbal communication dimensions. And we would look at them and see that Russia is in the top half of the context. When we talk about context compared to content, i.e. an Arab, in order to understand an Arab, you will need to understand the context, the history, the culture, the proverbs, the what's going on in terms of politics. All of that would matter when you speak to an Arab. It's not only the language. While if you go down the line to Switzerland, what matters most is how to utter the words clearly, not understanding the culture, because you would speak things out. While an Arab, and many of my students would find it, probably some of them would find it interesting, some of them would find it challenging, and some of them would find it boring, because I continue to quote proverbs, to quote sayings, to quote poetry, and so on. So introducing all of that in my speech is what I mean by context, because I'm not talking as much as I'm driving the support of external elements to convince and convey my message. So if I want to convey my message, I'd provide all of those external elements. And that has to be done in a certain way and a certain manner in a certain space as well. So those who are close friends, I would get closer to them, hug them, put my hands on their shoulder, tap on their shoulders, while others I would keep a distance. Depends on the intimacy, the friendship, etc., and depends on the gender as well, amongst many other issues. While when Hall talked about the time, we should talk about monochronic versus polychronic cultures. And these cultures would not define certain culture as monochronic only. We can be both. At home, we can be polychronic, and at work, we can be monochronic. And the ideal example of that are the Japanese, who are very monochronic in their workplace, while in their households they would tend to be loose. They would loosen that monochronic culture to a certain extent, and that happened for certain demands after the Second World War. While the Arabs are polychronic, the Russians are somewhere between polychronic and monochronic, but they're closer to us Arabs. Like you, Russians, that you are closer to Arabs, I reckon. So we tend to keep time, and while to keep time as the major value, we are not easily distracted. In the monochronic culture, we commit to work, importance of deadlines, stick to plans, value, and respect. Obviously, this is one side issue. The guy who wrote it shows that he is from that culture. While we take our time, we commit to relationships, we place less importance to deadlines, we talk to each other, we value the connections, value the community. So I value a lot the work of Liu Yang, and she gave her animations or her explanation in drawings and animations. What you can see is West versus East, according to her. So this is a monochronic and this is a polychronic, as you can see. And if I want to talk about an issue as an Arab, I would go around the issue, not to go directly to the point. While polychronic, monochronic, they would go directly to the point and talk about it. If we set a meeting, say a reception after a conference or in a conference evening, we set it as Arabs in this way, or if we have a party, we would sit this way, or dabka or dancing. While in the West or monochronic cultures, they would go this way. So you would see these, as I have explained before, and this would summarize what we have talked about as chronomics, proxemics, i.e. the proximity and personal space, and kinesics and paralanguage. So Qatar has signed the Convention for Safeguarding of Intangible Cultural Heritage in 2008. That was produced in 2003 by the UNESCO. And culture, the Qatari culture, if you look at it, it's full of signs and semiotics of clothing that you would wish to dig deeper in. And that was my head when I first thought about my book. Actually, it was I explained in the introduction what led me to that. But when I started devising how I should deal with the book, I started this way. Then I relied on the grounded theory that you can read about in the introduction in order to issue this work in Arabic and later on in English. And I was very deeply honored to have it done in Russian thanks to all of those who have supported me into that journey. Without naming anyone, you can buy the book and see all of their names, and my thanks to them. So this is the book, and in brief, I would make this. Can you hear the sound?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. So mainly, this book is about the Qatari culture, and it's the first corpus that document all of the signs and gestures. It's the largest in the world because it has more than 400 entries, which is very important reference for all of those signs and gestures. It's the first in the Arab world, and it is one of the few in the world. And as we have said, that it goes along with the UNESCO's work, and it is very important for the future generations as well as the visitors to Qatar, the diplomats, the drama, TV drama directors, etc., etc. I hope that it will be a nice read for all of those who would buy it. It is in 200 pages, and it has a lot of photos to illustrate the work. So everything is explained with a lot of explanation to take the reader in a nice journey. I was honored at the end to be given a lot of commendations by many scholars and dignitaries, including the university president, Keith Verstage, Jeremy Bowden, and the George Gregory, and above all, and I do thank him from here, Professor Vitaly Neomkin. So we have the Qatari greetings that you can see, different Qatari greetings, and each one would mean something. Yet we have the Corona effect. And by the way, this is me. If you're questioning who's the handsome guy here, it is me. So I had to play with the different actors, and it was enjoyable journey, I must say. However, the Qatari reception, it's the dilemma of shaking the finjan, the cup, the small cup of coffee. And when people are introduced with the cup of coffee, they should hold it with their right hand. And then when they finish, if they want more, they present it as is. If not, if they have finished and don't want any more, they would shake it. So many people would fall in this trap and keep returning it back as it is. So the guy who pours the coffee would keep giving them coffee, and they have to finish the coffee, because if they do not finish the coffee and put it on the ground, that's shame. There is something wrong, as we will see. Eating with your hands, and what it means, and how to get people around the meal. Who would eat first? Arabs, we can see their food, a lot of food, but is that part of wasting, or would they eat it? All of these questions are to be answered in the book, and I hope that I will answer more. The differences between genders in terms of, as example, this guy is telling ala rasi, and this girl is saying min ayuni, on my head, and she's saying from my eyes. It means nothing if we take it grammatically and syntactically and analyze the work from a morphological, lexical point of view. It means nothing. But if we understand the culture, we understand that these guys show their readiness to participate and help the other guy. So I would show you this short video about 1 minute video about a group of people who went to visit a sheikh, i.e. a senior dignitary, and this is coffee etiquette. No, because not having the coffee is a big issue. going to somebody's house and not having the coffee is a big issue. Yet, there is something wrong in this. If you analyze this photo, there are two things which are wrong that I have checked. And I hope that you would think about them. I would give you 5 seconds because Professor Vasily is not nice when it comes to time element. He's monochronic guy, not polychronic. So what's wrong? Okay, I will answer. I'm just giving you time to think. And those who wish to answer on the chat, yes, good, yes. You have even an extra one. Yes, it should have been introduced first to the senior, then the rest of the guys. So to go from the senior to the right of the guests. So senior, then the other guys. Second one, the guy should not have taken the coffee with his left hand. It's shame. But the last thing, actually, the host should have seated the guy on this side of the pillows. So he would lean with his left arm and take the coffee while he's leaning with his right arm. So these are issues that a book like mine would give to a director like this guy and tell him, watch it, don't make these mistakes. So do's and don'ts. As example, dead fish handshake, it's a shame if it's done. You should know whether the lady would stretch her arm or not before you stretch your arm. Don't show the sole of your feet to an Arab. And Arabs didn't like this gesture during Corona because it's a shame. The feet is not a place for people to take greetings with. So the dress is very important. And who's who? If I ask you, who's the groom amongst these guys? And who's the sailor? And who's the horse rider? And who's the official? And who's the putting on casual wear or shepherd wear or household or outdoor winter dress? So each one of these should be looked at very carefully. It's like someone put in a fur coat in Russia with a slipper. It doesn't work. It doesn't work because you would look at that. Come on, it doesn't work. You can't have a fur coat in the winter with the slippers on, with your toes going out of your slipper. That doesn't work. So this is a groom. This is a shepherd. This is a guy in casual dress, and this is a guy that you would see in offices. While this guy would dress like this only at household and would never go out of his house like this. So, and this is a guy who might ride a horse or go into the outdoor, and this is the sea wear. While these girls or ladies, the battula is something that ladies would put on at the age of 18, unless if they got married before then. Before then, yes, I meant it. Before then. And this is a Bedouin type of khimar, and this is obviously this garment is to be put on during traditional dancing. Well, this is the most common shawl that ladies would put on, and you can see them. So we can start from pronouns to attributes. What's beautiful? Which one is beautiful amongst of these? Which one is slim? Which one is short? And which one is, sorry, we're closed. So, or we have finished. And I hope that Professor Vasily won't do this sign to me soon. So, attributes again. I would leave that for you guys during your when you check the YouTube, because if you don't check the YouTube, then you are not interested. And if you're not interested, then fine. I will go on. So this sign is very, very interesting because it's close to the Napoli's sign like this, which was a main turning point to the works of Ludwig Wittgenstein when he met in a train an economist, Italian economist, and he talked to him about the reality of this sign and how he could interpret this into a photo because he was talking to him about his pictorial theory, and he changed his mind because of it. It's very similar to this, but Arabs would do it this way, and it would mean it's pointless, it's nonsense. So the rest of these attributes you can check and check your understanding of the Arab culture, or probably by the book, and you would know the answers. Okay, so these are some more questions. It's reaching up to here. Is it I'm so upset, or I'm too full up to here, or I feel proud of myself and getting my nose up? So which one is this? Wasla lahon. It's reaching my nose, or it's reaching my chin. What's reaching his chin? Food? Well, you can check in the book. Or attributive adverbs like readiness in adversity or at your service. We've explained at your service these, and this one would say على الخشم. على الخشم. On my nose, it's the most honorable part of the body by an Arab, the nose and the head. And you can have not only attributes or adverbs, you can have even verbs, asking someone to do something, or giving orders, or preventing someone from doing something. And fashion as a mean of communication, as Paulina Thomas has talked about, fashion is a language of signs, symbols, and iconography that non-verbal communicate meanings about individuals and groups. As example, this guy is a guy who doesn't care, he's a dasa. The different types of beards would mean different things and would give us an indication about the guy and what he means and his background as well. And that was apparent in the World Cup shawl that was the main icon of the World Cup, and it was given to the whole world to look at, and many people looked at differently. Yet, nonverbal communication went to our mobiles, emails, and so on as we see it. This is the way I communicate with people. Not necessarily I would communicate with words, like we have done in the post-corona era, when digital body language has boomed. By the way, I can show you that I'm in jeans, so I'm not in my shorts or pajamas down there. So in order to get out of that mentality, of the Zoom culture mentality, we're still in it. It affected everything. It affected our teaching. It affected the way we look. When I first came to the scene, I was instructed by you, put more light on, sit this way, sit that way, communicate in a certain manner. Variants are to be considered between culture as a capital C and cultures as small c. We have a vast area of the Arabic culture. And if we look at this Japanese or Korean guy, Japanese most likely guy, who was putting the iqal, headdress, iqal and ghutra, and he was so grateful for the guy for taking the time to put it on, like many foreigners who came to Doha. And at the end, when he put it on for him in a perfect manner, he took all the time to make it nice. And look at what has happened. He wanted to show his gratitude to the guy. So given this, he wanted to show his utmost gratitude by giving 45 degrees bow. Would it make a difference, 45 or 30? Or yes, it would make. The different salutes in the Japanese culture would make big difference, as we've seen the manager of the football team. Bowing down in the Arab culture, Arabs don't like to bow down. They consider it as a religious posture, and they do not like to do it. This is the most they can lean. They can lean probably 10 degrees, not more. While the regional variant should be looked at because in the Qatari culture, we have people of the sea the Bedouins and the Urbans, and we have other people as well. So each one would have a different culture and different ways to express that culture. And later on, we will look at the privacy variant, what we can, as we say in Arabic, لِكُلِّ مَقَامٍ مَقَال. So we cannot express everything in the same way we do in different places. So what I can do at home, I can sit in this pajama-like. I can put on this slipper when I'm in the toilet or when I'm at home, but it's not appropriate to go out with this in the Arab world, even if it's summer. And the man-woman relationship and showing affection and feelings, which was a big hoo-ha in the World Cup, what to do and when to do things. And all of these things that we can look at. I would quote this, and we are about to finish, by the way, Vasily, don't worry. Don't worry, we are about to finish. One of the female teachers of Arabic for non-native speakers, she had an international male student, and he wanted to show her his gratitude and his utmost love to her. So he wanted to, and he knew that she doesn't shake hands. So what he did, he jumped on her and he hugged her. Because she doesn't shake hands, and that was a shock for the lady, because if she doesn't shake hands, then she doesn't want any physical contact. And this is what we can see in some early codes and some travelers' codes, and the gender variants. What we can see, how people would walk, what people would do. As example, it's inappropriate for a man to show a pregnant sign like this lady, because this is more a lady's sign, and this is more a lady's posture. And there is a lot of studies on how we differentiate between man and woman, not only in the Arab culture, even in the Western cultures, and their postures in the offices and the medical practice and so on, and sitting in a car like this. So all of this is to be understandable. Seniority variant, what could be done from a man to or a woman to their seniors. As example, kissing the feet of a mother and kissing the hand. As example, I was given a call by a guy from abroad, and he showed his appreciation to what the Emir of Qatar has done during the inauguration of the World Cup, when he kissed the hand of his dad to show his respect and gratitude to his dad. So that's something that we show, or kissing the hand, or kissing the nose. Oh, who would hold the ear of someone senior to junior, and so on, who would stretch his legs and show the sole of the feet. And there are some vanishing nonverbal communication cues that we do not see now because of the changes in the culture. As example, throwing the iqal on somebody's, the iqal, i.e. the headwear, on the sheikhs, i.e. the chief's chest. This is to call for support, because now we have the state, and the state took that role. So people would go to the police station, they won't go to the sheikh, and we have different ways that people used to express themselves. As example, this is to lower the iqal to the back in the past, to show that I'm missing a friend who who traveled. But now people will travel every day almost in Qatar. So you can't lower your iqal. And the taboo variant is very, very important. The thaqafatul aib, i.e. culture of shame, in the conservative society like Qatar and the Arab cultures, it would impose a stigma on people who would offend the image and reputation of the society. However, these gestures would rarely happen, probably between people who have close relationship and can keep the secret, because it is like a secret thing. It's shame. That's part of the face, because they don't want their faces to be turned black. And Oh, I forgot to translate this. Sorry. متغير التطهر. Purity. Some people would not like to portray the image of the society as a society who has negative issues. So they don't like to show these images in the society. They try to hide them because these are not us. We don't want to show them. We want to show the positive side. And the corona effect, it was a major thing that probably some people thought that it would change our lives forever. For me, in one of the interviews with the Russian journalist in Qatar, I told her that I'm expecting everything to come back as it was, and everything came back to it was. I would have wished to see this in the World Cup, but it never happened. These are some bibliography works that you can refer to, and photos of how we developed the work during the emergence of the book in the Arabic version and the English version. And thank you so much for being so patient. And that's it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this exciting lecture. Thank you so much. Now we have a Q&A session. I no doubt there are a lot of questions. Who will be the first? I think so many. Usually this topic of nonverbal communication is not in the focus of our in the focus of our work. We don't have any questions.
Well, that means that either.
So you were very clear. Muntasir, I have a question. Yes, Amna Ali.
Ustad, thank you for the presentation. I wanted to ask that perhaps if people in the West or generally the masses, if they were aware of the cultural differences that we have in the Arab world, do you think that would have potentially changed the narrative that we saw in the Western kind of media? So just a short question, really.
Yes, this is... It is. Sometimes people would rely a lot on the stereotypical images that were developed over long time, and that's very apparent in the works of some Western scholars. Unfortunately, while others were fair in their representation of the Arab Muslim cultures or the Eastern cultures in general, which Edward Said has talked about a lot in his book Orientalism, and how some Orientalists, which were given a bad meaning for the term of Orientalism, because of their works about the Arab Muslim Eastern cultures. However, those were part of a wider community. We've seen that in Hollywood and the works of someone like Jack Shaheen, who have presented very nice collection of books, including a very interesting movie showing his analysis to more than 1,000 Hollywood movies depicting the Arabs and Muslims in a certain way. So to counter all of that negative stereotypical portrayal of the people of the East would require a lot of work, and we have to build bridges. And when we have bridges between different cultures, it means that both both cultures should pass on these bridges. Not only, we do not expect the other to pass and come to understand us. We have to pass over and present our narrative and our version of the story. I believe that this World Cup presented something nice where people managed to come and to have first-hand experience on what it means to be in the Arab world, what it means to be amongst Arabs, to check on their negative stereotypical images that were presented to them by the media or by the propaganda machine in the West, and whether it was right or not. So, and on the other hand, when we go to the West or to the East, as example, I'm so grateful to Professor President Stove for his invitation. But obviously, the Russian Oriental School does not have the same name as the Western Oriental School that was linked to more or less the imperial agenda, while the Russian relationships, Oriental relationships, are not the same when it comes to building bridges with the Arabs or understanding the Arabs. It was not always rosy relationships, but the drive and the motive was not for colonial purposes. So it's long issue, and I believe that we have responsibility as well as the other have responsibility.
Thank you. There is a question from Yelena Melkuman. Professor Melkuman, please.
Thank you very much for your very interesting presentation. I would like to ask you about the language of gesture in the Arab Gulf countries. Is this language the same in all countries, in Qatar and neighboring countries like Saudi Arabia or Emirates or Kuwait, or do you have some differences?
Perfect question. Perfect. Very, very beautiful question. I'm part of this region, and part of my general observations, I would say, and part of my interest in this topic. I keep observing people wherever I go, and sometimes in rather curious way, and I keep asking questions. I dare to ask people a question about what made them do certain gesture and what it means, and that would require some courage and curiosity, which is basically what any student or researcher must have in order to explore things. However, I would say that that nonverbal communication in Qatar is similar to the Qatari dialect. It shares a lot with the East, with the Eastern or with the East Arabian dialects, grammar in terms of grammar, syntax, lexicon, and so on. Likewise, the nonverbal communication, it has a lot in common, but there are some differences as well. And once you go further, these differences would become even bigger and bigger. And as example, even in Qatar, if someone do this, the Bedouins would understand it. The people, the Hadar, would not understand it because it's a Bedouin sound. But the Bedouins in Saudi Arabia would understand it. It means against your wish. We got it against your wish. We made it against your wish. So they won't understand it simply because it's part of their Bedouin culture. So just imagine getting to the Middle East. All of us are in the Middle East. Getting into say Levant, Palestine, Syria, Lebanon, and Jordan. They would have more in common, and things are different from the other Arab countries' gestures. I had a few signs that I cannot make here, I was making very innocent, in a very innocent way, and were explaining things to my Algerian friend. And he said, "No, what are you doing? We are in a public place." I told him, "What's wrong? I'm just telling you that we have just done it, so sealed it, okay." And for him, this was a taboo. While he was talking, he was saying, "War, war, war." I was, no, I don't want to see this, because in our culture, this is a shame to do. So again, what would be common in certain country would not be common in another country. As example, this if someone in Riyadh has done it, or Najdi, it would mean so beautiful when they refer to someone, or in terms of showing their affection. But if you say this to somebody, are they scratching their beard or what? So yes, it would make a difference, like colloquials and dialects in the Arab world.
Thank you. We have 2 questions in chat. I will announce them. Who is closer to Arabs in non-verbal communication, Europeans or East Asian people, whose body language is perceived as more akin by Arabs? And the second question is from Irina Tsarigorодцева. Should a foreigner who learns Arabic language and culture use the Arab language of gestures? Or it will be enough for him to be aware of the language without using its activity?
I would believe it's about geographical proximity as well as cultural interaction. So I cannot judge, but geographical proximity would give similarity in these cultural presentations. So I believe that when it comes to neighboring countries, to the Arabs and Mediterranean Sea would have a lot in common. The closer you would be to the Mediterranean, the more you would have in common. Yet, once you go to Morocco from the Levant, you would have differences. However, I believe that the Levant would have more in common with Cyprus, Greece, and other countries. However, this is general answer. I'm not talking out of research facts. So I must say that this is my general impression about that. The more you would go to the north, you would have more in common. But as example, some of the signs in the UK are not known at all to people in the continent, and the people are complete ignorant when it comes to them. So I won't show those signs here. One of them is what was shown in the slides by Churchill. He has done it, the reverse of the victory sign, and that's a very vulgar type of sign. And it was made against the French in particular at certain point. It's like giving the middle finger. But I was given that 2-finger sign by many of my European students at the university when I was in the UK. They were showing me, they were counting 2 in a certain way that it looked as if they're showing me the vulgar sign. My mind would interpret it as the vulgar sign because it's too strong in the British culture. So it's like giving the middle finger to your professor in the middle of a class. But they didn't mean it. They wanted to show to count 2. So I believe that there are a lot of issues when it comes to conflict. People in conflict, as example, French and British would not have many things in common. But people who have more things in common like other cultures would share more things. And the second question by
the second question is about do you think that somebody who learns Arabic language and culture, he should use the Arab language as gestures, or it will be enough for him to be aware of the language without using it it's actively?
I believe that this should be, and this is some of the work that I wish to do. I try to start doing it, but then I give up for a while to continue on my other appending stuff. What I would wish to see, whether by me or by anyone who's interested, and this could be a study by a PhD student or by someone else, to study how to introduce the nonverbal clues during our learning of Arabic step by step. And it has to be part of what we introduce to our students from day one. When we go in class and shake hands with students and showing them how Arabs would shake hands, how Arabs would show different things, how they would say ala rasi. When I give the prepositions to my students, I would give them ala rasi because they know ala and they know ras, head, and my head ala rasi. So they know that. So I would give them the meaning of ala rasi as example. This is to show you readiness to do something, min ayuni, and some other things. And I'm honored to be here with Professor Ala Amir, who was my colleague in designing the course online on edX platform, and we introduced that as part of teaching and learning Arabic in some of the videos. So it is very important to keep integrating it. However, in order to integrate it in the right way, it has to be studied together with the framework that we are using, whether the European framework or the ACTFL or any other framework that we use. So I would love to see any of the students, PhD students, to take this challenge, and I'm sure that they would introduce something to the community, to those who do textbook design and write books of teaching Arabic for non-native speakers.
Thank you. We have another question. Very long question. Dr. Hamad, thank you for your magnificent lecture. How do you think has the West tradition of semiology and analysis of nonverbal communication actually affected the Arab sense of self? I mean, whether has it changed the opinion of people of their own tradition and symbols in the way that makes them believe that it's only the heritage of tradition, or it would like to develop in their own way and find new source of inspiration among the young Arabs? Wow.
Okay, I would answer this way. What did you understand? What did you understand? You understood. Every one of us understand this sign, right? Because
right.
we do. Yeah. Probably if you go some 30 years back, 20 years back, 20 years back to Qatar, to any street in Qatar and do this sign. By the way, many people would not understand it. It would be meaningless. So we are exposed. The exposure is part of our learning about the other. Part of the soft power that we are influenced by is movies. So a lot of things that are practiced in certain cultures were transmitted to us through these means, like a means of soft power. Movies, novels, political influence, occupation, colonial powers resting in our lands, education, people who went to learn in some countries and brought back that heritage, thinking that it would work better for us. Different things. That's the soft power. Can we resist it? Is it important to resist it, or can we adapt it? Well, I believe that there is no problem in adapting more and more. If we can adapt it without giving up the essence of our culture, then that shows the strength of our culture. It's like a language. I don't mind taking a new word from English, okay, and giving it the morphological and put it in our morphological factory. Like, as example, save, instead of save the file, I would say save al-file. Why not? I made it Arabic, okay? I don't mind. I know that many would argue with me, but I don't mind if Arabic can take those words and put them according to the Arabic values of grammar, morphology, lexical coining, and etc. Then why not? Adaptation is part of the resistance of the language. But if we give up and start making a lot of language mixing, that's dangerous. When I speak Arabic and half of what I say it in English. No, stop here. Sorry. This is something different. Then you're not expressing or conveying your message in Arabic. You're conveying your message by the influence of the other on your mind and mentality. And you're trying to show eloquence, to show a status, to show other things, or to show that you're convincing. And many people sometimes, when they speak to me in English, I would say, "Oh God, please stop." It's not to be said in English that way. But they're very proud of themselves to speak English because it gives them status, because they speak the language of the other, the language of the previous colonial power, and it affects their mentality. So it's, but I do not mind having many of these signs like this and like other signs that are good if we can take them in and make them part of our culture without giving up the essence of our culture.
Thank you, dear colleagues. Any other question? Ярославна Перевозчикова, please.
Перевозчикова. Thank you. Many thanks for your fascinating narratives. And I would like to ask you, are there any gestures that are inappropriate for foreigners to use, but appropriate for Arabs? Thanks.
Inappropriate for foreigners and appropriate for Arabs. Would you just? I don't know whether you just puzzled me in this question. I do.
I'm sorry.
Inappropriate for foreigners to use in the Arab world.
Yes.
While Arabs keep it for themselves.
Yes. For example, I don't know what, like you, just do it.
Arabs, like any other nation, will come in culture. By the way, I believe that all nations are friendly when you try to come closer to those nations. They would be friendly and they would love to see you saying few words in their culture or trying to imitate what they do in their culture. Obviously, some of the people would do certain things in the wrong way, yet it would give a smile to the people in that culture. But we do understand they're doing it out of their say friendliness, and they do not mean to embarrass the other. So the conflict, this conflict might be presented even in some families, inside the family or inside the inside the places. As I told you, as example, I was in my office in the UK, and 2 Italian students came to my office, and they started showing me 2 fingers because they were counting on 2 things, and they continued to do that. And at the end, I told them, please stop. I had enough. Mainly because it showed very vulgar sign, and I didn't mind that because I do understand their motive. But I minded the full cluster of full computer cluster behind the glass window of my office, who were looking through the window, seeing 2 girls giving me a bad sign, and a bad gesture. So I had to stop them. But otherwise, no, I don't think. I believe that Arabs would do not keep. They're not secret society, and they do not keep signs for themselves. Probably, as I said, some of the signs people might do in very private environment, say with their friends. They might do certain things because it's a conservative society, but they won't do ever in a public society, in the public. And as example, some other things which are not bad, but as example, someone taking the garment off his head while sitting in his at home with his friends. He would only take it off if they were close friends, but he won't take it off if they're not close friends. So if he takes it off, then he means you're one of my close friends, and he would talk freely with you. So it's a sign that he is resting and he's talking freely with you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, dear colleagues. Any other questions? Aida, maybe? Yes, please.
Yes, actually, I've got a small question. Thanks a lot for the lecture. I enjoyed it. Maybe I'm a bit late with my question, but anyway, I will ask it. Professor, you talked about the issue of adapting Arab culture, Arab gestures with these Western or universal gestures and signs. One question before. So I have the following question. If there was a threat to Arab gestures and signs as a part of Arab culture, are there any ways, except for adapting them, that you see that would help to preserve these gestures and signs as a part of Arab culture, if there is such a threat?
Very, very excellent question. Excellent question. We have endangered languages, right? It's part of the studies that some linguists do. And part of it, as I talked about vanishing nonverbal communication cues, there are some of them who has disappeared, and some of the even dresses who have disappeared from our world. And one of the things to do is to preserve them in corpuses similar to the one that I have issued by preserving that and keeping it for the future generations. Some of them would not be. I believe that the society went over them. As I have described the issue of having now proper administrative running of the society and government and policing, etc. So we're not in need for the hierarchical system of sheikh and chieftains who would protect their subjects. So now people would go to the police, and when they go to the police, they won't throw the iqal on their chest. They would just fill in a form or go on an application form and do it. But it is important for someone like me, and it's part of my duty and your duty as well, for your own cultures culture as the Russian culture and cultures as Russian cultures with the small c. You need to preserve a lot of these things for the future, for people who might do directors of movies, for foreign diplomats and who would come to your country and understand that what they should do, what they should not do when they enter your house. As example, do you take your shoe off or not? What do you do? What about the time? As example, all of my life I was because we were colonized, alhamdulillah, by the English, so we are privileged somehow. So because we were colonized by the English, so most of the people, when they refer to punctuality, they would tell you English time. I want you to come to see me English time. English time means not Arab time. Okay, so Arab time is you take your time. And you have even some people, although I do respect all of my Sudanese colleagues and friends, but because Sudanese take their time, so a Sudanese guy might tell you, well, I'll see you, let's meet after dhuhr, after noon. If I don't come until Asr, after late noon, wait for me until Maghrib, until sunset. Okay, wait for me until sunset. Then leave after Isha. Leave after late night. So, however, when I went to the UK, and I wanted to be English time, so I started working at the university. And one day they had a meeting, and out of a sudden, one of the colleagues said, "Well, next time, please come German time." I told him, no. You were fooling us for all of my life, and all of my people were fooled by you guys. You were our ex-colonial power. How dare you fool us? Okay? You fooled us by English time, and now you're talking about German time? They said, no, German time, we start on time, and we finish on time. There is no layover. And I took that in. Later on, I went to Japan in one of my visits, and we had a seminar, and for a certain reason, we're a bit not late. We had 20 minutes to get to our seminar. And my English friend, who's married to a Japanese lady, was so upset. And I told him, come on, Steve, what's wrong with you? And he said, Muntasir, we're late. I told him, no, we'll get there at 1 o'clock. He said, 1 o'clock is late. I told him, no, we're starting at 1, Steve. He said, no, we should be there 1:45. So we would exchange gifts and talk about the weather and everything, and then start business at 1 o'clock. So I told him, aha. So we have Arab time and Sudanese time before Arab time, then English time, then German time, then Japanese time. So it's endless, and it depends. You will need to adapt everywhere you go. And Japanese time, it works in the workplace, while if you go to their houses, you deal in a different manner. There is a relaxed atmosphere in their houses because they follow the polychronic culture in their traditional Japanese culture, which was discussed in Edward T. Hall's book Beyond Culture, very, very eloquent.
Thank you so much. We have also Russian time, It's about
Russian time is like Arab time. It's
about quarter an hour plus minus. If you are 15 minutes, it's not. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Any other questions? If we don't have other questions, dear friends, I think it's a very good point, this point of preservation of national heritage, of not material culture, national culture. It is a very good point and a very important point. To stop our discussion, I just want to thank one more time to thank Professor Muntasir Al-Hamad for lecture. lecture. It was على رأس. شكرا جزيلا. شكرا جزيلا. There is a comment in chat. Russian time is when you never know what your partner expects from you. That's true. You never know anything. Thank you so much, Professor. I hope we'll see your book on our shelves in a few weeks, and we'll have something to read. And we will have something to read during the Christmas holidays. Because we in Russia we like to read, but thank you so much, and inshallah we'll see you as soon as possible for other events in the next year.
Inshallah.
And welcome to Moscow.
Thank you, all of you.
Thank you.
It was perfect being with you. Thank you so much, and I do appreciate your patience taking me for all of that time. Not many people would do that, so thank you.
Thank you.
مع السلامة.
مع السلامة.